Welcome to the news edition of I Wrote This Podcast. Today is January 11th, 2022. Here's what you need to know to start your day. Robert Durst, the wealthy New York real estate heir and suspect in the disappearance and deaths of those around him before he was convicted last year of murder, has died. He was 78. Durst was convicted in September of shooting Susan Berman at point-blank range at her Los Angeles home in 2000 and then was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Durst had also long been suspected of killing his wife Kathy, who went missing in New York 1982 and was declared legally dead decades later. North Korea launched a ballistic missile off its east coast on Tuesday, its second weapons test in a week, as the United Nations Security Council met to discuss the country's growing missile threat. North Korea conducted its last missile test on Wednesday when it launched what it called a hypersonic missile off its east coast. South Korea's military dismissed that claim, saying that the weapon was a common ballistic missile. The North's test on Wednesday was its second test of such a weapon since September. The tests are in violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions that ban North Korea from developing or testing ballistic missiles or nuclear devices. The number of Americans hospitalized with COVID-19 has surpassed last winter's peak, underscoring the severity of the threat the virus continues to pose as the extremely contagious Omicron variant moves through the United States. According to data from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services as of Sunday, 142,388 patients with the virus were hospitalized nationwide, surpassing the peak of 142,315 reported on January 14th of last year. The 7-day average of daily hospitalizations was 132,086, an increase of 83% from 2 weeks ago. The Omicron wave has overwhelmed hospitals and depleted staff who were already worn out by the Delta variant. It has been driven in large part by people younger than 60. Among people older than 60, daily admissions are still lower than last winter. A U.S. district judge on Monday forced lawyers for former President Donald Trump to reckon with his hours of silence during last year's January 6th attack on the Capitol, asking in court whether the president's initial inaction could be considered a tacit endorsement of the day's violence. During a court hearing Monday, Judge Amit Mehta said that for a 2-hour period on the day of the siege, Trump did not take to Twitter or to any other type of communication and say, "Stop. Get out of the Capitol. What you are doing is not what I wanted you to do." "What would you have me do with the allegation that the president did not act?" asked Mehta, an Obama appointee who joined the federal bench in 2014. His question came during oral arguments that alleged Trump's incendiary rhetoric incited the Capitol breach. At a rally that preceded the siege, Trump told his supporters, "If you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore." In court Monday, Mehta asked whether Trump's inaction could be considered ratification of that statement. Mehta also rejected one lawyer's claim that Trump urged his supporters to be peaceful on that day, telling the attorney to stick with the facts. A 57-year-old man with life-threatening heart disease has received a heart from a genetically modified pig, a groundbreaking procedure that offers hope to hundreds of thousands of patients with failing organs but dread to millions of pigs whose hearts are just fine. It is the first successful transplant of a pig's heart into a human being. The 8-hour operation took place in Baltimore on Friday, and the patient, David Bennett Sr. of Maryland, was doing well on Monday, according to surgeons at the University of Maryland Medical Center. No word yet on the status of the pig. It's time for On This Date in History. On this day in 1935, Amelia Earhart, one of the world's most celebrated aviators, made the first successful solo flight from Hawaii to California, a distance longer than that from the United States to Europe. On this day in 1897, M.H. Cannon became the first woman state senator in the United States. She represented the state of Utah. Celebrating birthdays today are singer Naomi Judd and golfer Ben Crenshaw. Happy birthday to them, and happy birthday to everyone born on this date. By the way, if you or someone you know has a birthday coming up, send us an email or leave us a voice message with a greeting. We will be happy to include that in an upcoming show. You'll find the links in the show notes. Today's news was brought to us by CNN, The New York Times, The Guardian, BBC News, Britannica, and Wikipedia. If you have a comment or a question about anything you've heard today, or if you have a suggestion, please send us a note at IWTP all one word, at thatradioshow.com. That email address one more time is IWTP all one word, at thatradioshow.com.
One more thing, if this podcast sounds a little funny, that's because it's also an experiment. All of the vocals were generated using AI technology. Hopefully the show will sound different and better as the tech improves and as we improve at using it. I'm Bob Neese, hoping you have an amazing day. We'll get together again soon.